on today's episode of Technoid, we're going to talk about the iMac Pro. Yes, apparently they're saying the iMac Pro is coming back from the dead because according to several reports, the 27-inch iMac that was supposed to be the follow-up to the 24-inch iMac, well, apparently they're saying that that is going to be the replacement of the 27-inch with the dubbed Pro title. I'm going to break that down in its entirety. Also on today's episode, we have more reports coming out about the Apple car and how the project just took a huge leap forward. And lastly, a guy on the internet bought the iPhone with the USB-C connector. If you guys have not heard about it, I'm going to talk about it in today's episode. And I'm going to tell you exactly what that represents about not only willingness for people to want a USB-C iPhone, the whole demand for it, the stupidity of spending $87K, and to whoever bought it, why that might just be the worst purchase decision you have possibly ever made, but also the best purchase decision you have ever made. All of that on today's episode, so stay tuned. So story number one, the main story, let's talk about that 27-inch iMac. Now, a lot of people are dubbing this the iMac Pro because of the new M1 Pro and M1 Max chipset, and also because it is a 27-inch model and the history that happened in the past. But I'm not ready to give it the Pro title just yet, because there are some iMac things about it that we have to discuss. And if we're gonna talk Pro, then we gotta talk Pro. But taking a look at this new machine, we have a lot of reports coming out that we do know that they are making a redesigned model of the current large screen iMac, which is currently a 27-inch model. Now, a lot of people are saying that this new title is going to be the iMac Pro. I find that hard to believe because of two reasons. Number one, we don't have a Pro iMac, and number two, if this were to be the iMac Pro, then why would it be priced in a consumer range? And why not make it more pro user like the new MacBook Pros? And I'll explain more as we get into this video. But taking a look at the rumors, we can expect Apple to give us a new updated design with the M1 Pro chip. There are reports saying that the M1 Max might make its way in, but we're not sure exactly on how that's going to work out. We're also looking at reports saying that they will carry over with a mini LED display with XDR technology. And of course, it will be launched in the first half of 2022. Taking a look further, we can expect it to have 120 Hz, just like the MacBook Pros. We can also see that it will have improved HDR quality. They will have thinner bezels. It will retain the same iMac design like the 24 inches, but being that it will be a couple of inches bigger, it will have more screen to body and will look a lot better than the 24 inch. I'm sorry, but Apple's design choices this year have been so terrible. I mean, listen, they don't make ugly products all the time. Okay, fine, that's a lie. They do kind of make some ugly products. But this year has been really bad for the Macs. The notch on the MacBook Pro, that incredibly huge bottom on the iMac, and what's next? I mean, what else can they do? Put a notch on an iPad? Oh, Jesus, I just gave them an idea. But anyway, taking a look further, we also see that the new 27-inch iMac are going to keep the same array of ports that the 24-inch has. However, some reports are suggesting that it might include more SD card slots, HDMI port, and USB-C Thunderbolt. On top of that, there are also reports that the Max chip, we do know that the Pro chip will make its way over to the 27-inch, but we don't know exactly about the Max. Some people are saying that this Max could be the higher version, which people are saying is going to be the Pro. I don't know. So I can't really give a big, honest opinion on that. I gotta wait for more details to come out. But of course, the last thing to consider is, of course, the pricing and release date. We're looking around a $2,000 price tag with a base configuration of around 16 gigabytes, probably 512 SSD. So I think that that's a pretty fair, reasonable starting price, at least with those configured specs. And the release date are looking at before or either during WWDC of 2022. Now listen, I think that the 27-inch iMac is a must-need for a lot of users. For starters, it's a big computer. It does everything you can do. It's definitely a big improvement over what we've gotten in the past. Although I'm not a big fan of the redesign, I do think this 27-inch model caters to more people looking for more out of a all-in-one desktop. But to dub it the Pro model, it kind of makes sense, but at the same breath kind of doesn't. Because if you guys remember way back in 2016 or 2017, Apple did release an iMac Pro. They did release a more pro-like iMac. The problem was just it really wasn't that pro and it really wasn't that modular. When you think of the word pro, you're able to upgrade its internals, upgrade its configurations, upgrade everything about the machine. And that just was not the case with the iMac Pro. And of course, Apple priced it at $4,500. But being that the specs and the hardware inside of the machine were made for pro users, that was understandable. But of course, the iMac Pro didn't sell well with pro users anyway. It didn't even sell well with any consumers. So Apple ultimately discontinued the iMac Pro and went with a more modular Mac Pro, and that's what we have now. So I personally don't think that Apple's gonna call this the iMac Pro, but I would not be against it, as it would be a good marketing ploy, as we do have iPad, iPad Pro, iPhone, iPhone Pro, MacBook, MacBook Pro, and then iMac, and then iMac Pro. So I wouldn't be against it, but we gotta wait and get more details before I'm ready to give it the name iMac Pro. But overall, looking at the reports, I'm actually kind of excited to hear about this machine. It's obviously not going to be my next machine. I'm looking at the Mac Mini as my next replacement for my Mac. I do like the MacBook Pros. I hate the notch, but I'd rather have an all-in-one PC versus a, notch on a notebook staring back at me every day saying you spent $2,000 on that. Alrighty, story number 2, let's talk about the Apple Car. Now, the Apple Car project we know is still under development. They are still working on it as we speak, but the project just got a few leaps above ground because, according to reports, an ex-Tesla engineer has signed on to the Apple Car project. Now, this is a big deal, and I'm going to tell you why as we read this story. But taking a look at the details, a former ex-engineer who was the head of engineering at Tesla, apparently they have hired this autopilot software director and also more engineers that have worked on previous Tesla cars. We do know that Apple is working with a lot of people that have had their doors in the automotive industry, specifically smart cars and battery-powered cars. So going out and recruiting a former software developer and an engineer is awesome. It gives your project more room to grow, and it gives it the experience and leadership skills it needs to accelerate. On top of that, as well as more details coming out about the Apple Car, there have been more reports saying that the Apple Car is going to focus on a software-based experience, just like what Tesla does, except the software and hardware will be able to integrate itself to produce not only stellar battery life on your car, but also produce enough battery life to get you over the oomph that you need. Now, of course, again, the details are still small. We don't have a lot of information out in the public right now, but I will tell you this. This Apple Car is looking to be the next big thing for Apple. Just like how the iPhone was for Apple, the Apple Car is going to be that big innovation for Apple. Now, of course, we have Tesla, we have other electric cars coming. But if we know one thing about Apple, when they innovate behind closed doors. Now, that's not an excuse for them to not innovate, but they're planning something, and they're planning something very big. So I have no doubt that when Apple releases this car, whenever they release it, it's going to be a big deal. So let me hear your thoughts down below. And last story, the final story, let's talk about that guy who bought that iPhone 10 with a USB-C connector. Now, if you haven't heard by now, a user, an engineer actually managed to put a USB-C port on the iPhone. Backstory, he took a amount of time studying the schematics, studying the layout, the design, everything about this model, and he basically whipped up possibly the closest we're ever going to get to an iPhone having USB-C. And the damn thing works so perfectly. He not only made it work perfectly, he took the chip in MF certified lightning connectors to make sure that it would stay connected. And of course, it did get a lot of buzz, and he sold it on eBay, and it sold for $86,000. That is insane. That is genuinely insane. But here's what I just wanted to talk about for a second. You know, this speaks volumes to to how far Apple users are willing to spend for a USB-C iPhone. If dropping 86K wasn't enough to tell you, I don't know. I don't know myself. But to the guy who bought the phone, I hope you enjoy it, but just know that it's not gonna last you that long. Not because it's an iPhone 10, but Apple will know what device that it's using. They will know the chip inside of that with the USB-C connector. So all they have to do is match that chip, do something upside in the firmware with a software update, and then the phone becomes useless. So better start looking for a refund explanation? I don't know. But overall, I do like the idea that people can go out and do these incredible things, and it speaks to volume, to how far people are willing to go to get a USB-C iPhone. And I think that if spending 86K isn't enough, Apple, honestly, I know you don't want to use USB-C, I know you're against it, you want to keep pushing Lightning, you want to go with MagSafe, but come on, a dude just dropped 86K for one of your phones with USB-C. I think you could get away with it, and I think people would buy more iPhones if you did that. And that's it for today's episode of Technoid. Now, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit the like button. If you disliked the video, you can hit the dislike button. That helps me play my videos as well. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next episode. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Take care, stay safe, have a good day, and peace!